Hey, Graham Crackers and Cornflakes were both made to stop you from jorking your schmeenitz. That's weird. So, many years ago, this biscuit, by the name of Sylvester Graham, created his biscuit to be a healthy snack which could also stop sick freaks like you from, So, it sounds pretty weird to you and I, but honestly, creating a whole-ass cracker just to stop people from handling their own hams was pretty on brand for the early 1800s. Back then, the temperance movement was just getting started, which, if you don't know, was basically just a group of nerds who got together and refused to get hammered. The movement gained popularity as more and more people of the time were becoming health-conscious, but also anti-pleasure, including Sylvester Graham. Much to his dismay, back then disease was running rampant. But worst of all, everywhere he looked, drunk folks were roaming the streets. And at home, the morally corrupt were stroking their meats.
You're so mature for your age.
What did Graham think about this crisis? Well, he blamed all of the corrupt behavior on food, and his cure was the first ever, fully flavorless, anti-masturbation diet.
You bitch.
Alright, so way back in Graham's day, people thought that beating your meat could cause insanity or even blindness. And about 80% of you guys watching this video are male, so you might have even heard that myth before. But if you've been watching my videos for long enough, you would also know that when I find a myth,
I love to bust it. And believe you me, brother, I ain't done busting yet. This one is false.
The only way to go blind while jorking it is to do it with so much force and vigor that you somehow burst a blood vessel in your eye. In fact, you're actually much more likely to go blind from graham cracker-induced diabetes, since the modern versions contain so much sugar, Sylvester would combust just by thinking about it. So with that myth all done and busted, we can talk about why Graham and another weird dude that I'll get to in a minute both believed that diet could control lust. And essentially, there's two main ways. The first being through overstimulating foods. The idea was that flavorful and processed foods could excite a person's digestive system and then, in turn, their nervous system, leading to the corrupt behavior like masturbation. So, at least in theory, by eating unexciting foods, you could avoid the lust caused by physical stimuli. Is this true? Science says no. But what I say is I didn't start tugging the slug until after I'd eaten enough fast food to give even the largest American pancreatic cancer. So who cares what science says? The second way Graham tried to control desire through diet was by using food as a tool for discipline. Basically, by avoiding fun things like eating tasty food or getting hammered, you'd build up the ability to say no to pulling your hose, and yes to praying with your bros. Graham combined these two ideas into his own weirdo, goop-esque diet/lifestyle plan, and at the core of it were vegan meals, cold showers, a ban on condiments, spices, whatever. But that's what eventually led us to the original, bone-dry, dirt-ass recipe for graham crackers.
Please God, kill me.
So Graham hated processed foods, right? But back in the 1800s, there were no forever chemical-filled drinks for babies. So what processed foods was he talking about? Bread. Sylvester Graham was beefing with bread. See, back then bread was obviously made with the usual ingredients. You know, flour, water, other stuff. But to make their loaves look whiter and last longer, bakers would also add in toxic crap like chalk powder and plaster. Now these additives are what really grammed Sylvester's crackers. In fact, they grammed his crackers so much that he just had to come up with a solution, which was graham flour, his own much more dry and dense version of whole wheat, capable of stopping even the most ferocious gooner. Now I'm sure at this point you can probably see where this is going, but followers of his diet took his graham flour and started baking it into these abysmal, bone-dry, sad little rectangles, aka graham crackers, used in cheesecakes, pie crusts, and the foundation of every s'more. Alright, so quick little side note here for something that probably only I care about, but when telling the story of the invention of graham crackers, there's this weird confusion on whether or not he was alive when people started making them, and a lot of places will just straight up tell you the crackers didn't exist until like 1896, but that is also false. I did some digging and I found a whole bunch of old ass newspaper archives with ads for his crackers years before Graham died. So there you go, another myth busted. So anyways, that is how, almost 200 years ago, the flavorless anti-masturbation cracker was born. Graham lived up until 1851 when his poor health finally caught up to him. What was the official cause of his demise? Lifelong illness, possibly finished off by opium enema complications. Yep, the anti-pleasure godfather of all health gurus, Sylvester Graham, might have kicked the bucket from having too much narcotics blown straight up his ass. If true, it's poetic, but somehow not even the weirdest part of this story, nor the end of it, because while Graham's body rotted away in a casket, his spirit lived on in another man. A man that was somehow even more passionate about masturbation and having liquids blown up his ass, and that man was Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, co-creator of your cornflakes. So John is easily one of history's most famous doctors. And hey, if I've said it once, I'll say it again. Early medicine kinda sucked. Thank you, I know, thank you. But I feel like the best way for you to understand the weird history of cornflakes and the guy who created them is to experience his treatments for yourself. So here.
Hibbity schmibbity, I steal your kidney!
This is you, and after my little spell back there, you're not feeling too good. But don't worry, you've just been transported back in time to the Battle Creek Sanitarium, America's premier health resort run by none other than John Kellogg. Now, since it's the early 1900s, the first thing you're gonna do when you get there, at least if you're a minority or woman, is hand those over. Thanks. The second thing you're gonna do is check yourself in and start your recovery, and unluckily for you, Mr. Cornflake is gonna treat you personally. Greetings, Gooner. A bowl of cornflakes, perhaps? They're great.
No? I'm okay. Oh God, help!
So now that you're inside, you can finally witness John's weirdo treatments firsthand. And, just for fun. Let's say you're a little bit tubby. Well, John would have made you exercise on one of his many machines, like, for example, his mechanical horse, which, fun fact, was so sick, President Calvin Coolidge had one in the White House. And that's how you know this thing was sick. That guy's got cool right in his name. Anyways, if you're not rockin' with the horse, you could just lay down in his electric bed and have your muscles worked passively. With exercise out of the way, you can move on to John's real specialty, the digestive system. For constipation, he would probably strap you into his vibrating poop chair, which was exactly what it sounds like, a chair that vibrates, quite literally shaking the shit out of you.
Wow, what's this thing?
This is a Kellogg's chair for constipation.
So anyways, John was obsessed with gut health, right? And he believed that stomach issues could cause basically every illness out there. Epilepsy, depression, diabetes, cancer, masturbation, whatever, you name it. So what was his solution? Simple. First, you flush the bowels with daily enemas, and then you rebalance the gut biome with yogurt. So what he would do is take his patients, even the ones without tummy aches, and hook them up to his custom enema machine. Flip this little switch here, and boom. 14 liters of water per minute blown straight up your poop chute. After that, he would hand you this, a nice little cup of yogurt. Aww. Wait, hold on a second. Wait, where'd the other half go? Oh no. John, Alright, so the Sanitarium was home to plenty of other weird treatments and medical devices, and honestly not all of them were as quacky as yogurt enemas, but for the sake of your physical health and my mental health, because I have to draw and edit this fucking video, we're just gonna assume the yogurt enemas fixed you. No more treatments now, you're finally done. Yippee! As you stand by in one of the Sanitarium's many medical rooms, you watch as John scurries off into the hallway, followed shortly after by screams of terror. Oh my god, I'm screaming in terror. Oh my god, I'm also screaming in terror, except in a slightly higher pitched voice. Oh no. In a room just down the hall from your own, two of John's most prolific gooners are undergoing surgery without anesthesia. Okay, so at this point, you can probably tell that John had some pretty weird treatments, right? Oh, good, okay. Well, do you want to know what the worst one was? Too bad. John believed the pain from could stop, which is why he specifically advocated for these surgeries to be done without anesthesia. Now, for all my fellas out there, you and I would just get the usual procedure. You know, removal of the hoodie.
I like your cut, G.
But for the ladies watching, you guys had a much worse fate. Carbolic acid poured straight onto the licorice. I'm sure that sounds pretty brutal, but I actually have some good news for you guys. Turns out, you can't pour acid on something that isn't real, so no need to worry. Anyways, as you walk down the Sanitarium halls feeling refreshed from John's treatments, you begin to get another feeling. A sense of pride washing over you as you notice you're walking right past the Battle Creek Surgical Sanitarium Wall of Fame. Oh my god, that's Abe Lincoln's wife. She came to see Kellogg after her husband got domed. Oh my god, that's Amelia Earhart, that one pilot lady who got eaten by crabs. No way. Oh my god, and Henry Ford, the dude who invented the Cars movie. Wow. Oh man, and there's like 5 presidents and a whole bunch of other people I couldn't be bothered to include. Man, I gotta say, appreciating all these important historical figures, it sure does work up an appetite, am I right? Ding ding ding, yoo-hoo, bell sounds, breakfast time. Oh, would you look at that? It's time to eat, and Papa John is serving up cornflakes. So the same obsession that led Graham to create his crackers is the same obsession that caused Kellogg to create his cornflakes. Both men believed that masturbation was not only immoral, but also physically harmful. And just like Graham, Kellogg took these two ideas and combined them into his own flavorless meal. On an ordinary night in 1894, John accidentally left some dough sitting out on the counter. When he came back the next morning, instead of simply throwing the dough out like a normal person would, he instead decided to run this dried up brick of wheat through a roller and then bake it, giving him these gorgeous toasted flakes. For John, these were the perfect Sanitarium food, healthy enough to be a regular item on the menu, but also bland enough to stop the jorkers from jorking. And for his patients? Well, they loved it. The Sanitarium's food company started mass-producing and selling the flakes, but John was always too busy running the Sanitarium, so he handed the keys over to his younger brother, this guy, Will Kellogg. Now, if you're still paying attention, you might have noticed that I haven't called these things cornflakes yet, and that's because they're not cornflakes. They're the OG, much more plain version called granose. Cornflakes didn't come around until a little while later when Will did some experimenting and swapped out the wheat dough for a corn-based dough, and that's when things really took off. Now, Will always saw the business potential in his new recipe, and he wanted to add sugar to the mix and focus more on marketing. But John? Well, that dude wasn't having any of it. See, to him, adding sugar went against everything that he believed in, so he just straight up refused. Will's response?
Screw you and your stupid mustache, John. I quit.
Will left the Sanitarium to create his own separate company to sell sweetened cornflakes, and in 1920, after winning a 13-year-long lawsuit against his own brother over who could use the family name, he rebranded to the Kellogg's Cereal Company. And after that, the rest is history. Will's sugary cereal secured a spot on every shelf, while John's flavorless flakes faded from the forefront of folks' minds. The Kellogg brothers never made up, and John died without his brother by his side. Kinda makes you feel bad for the guy, eh? Psych! This whole time, old Johnny Boy here was a eugenicist who dedicated the last 30 years of his life to racism and sterilizing the disabled. So yeah, fuck 'em. So what'd you learn today? Graham Crackers and Cornflakes were both made by two freaks who wanted to stop you from jorking your schmeenitz, and the inventor of the automobile probably had yogurt blown up his ass by the turbo racist who invented your breakfast.
Nice.
Alright, that's all I got for you this time. Thank you to the folks on screen for either being in the video or making the music or source material that I used in my research. I also just recently made a Patreon, so if you're interested in supporting the channel, the link will be down in the description. Otherwise, I'll smell you later. Bye.